good evening, everybody, and welcome to the last Authortubers React of the year. We're so glad you're here to hang out with us tonight. We aren't going to stay super long. It'll be just about an hour or so. I have some fabulous guest and co-host here. We have announcements, and then we're going to talk about all of the things that we liked about this past year season of Authortubers React, and some of the things we didn't like so much that we might not want to do again. But first, I'm going to let my co-hosts introduce themselves. We're going to start with Zara, and we're going to make a U go around Zara, Charliee, Esther, and up to Des. All right, go ahead, take it away, Zara.
My name is Zara Hoffman. I'm the self-published author of 7 books. I finally got this in paperback. There's a young adult paranormal romance trilogy, a new adult sci-fi romance trilogy, and a young adult dystopian, a standalone.
It looks good.
Whatever. I have a YouTube channel where I host writing sprints. I try once a week. Haven't been feeling too great the past few weeks. So hopefully, again, in the new year. I am one half of the Writish podcast with Kelly Wright, where we talk about all things writing related from shiny new idea through publication and marketing. And I am the founder of a small publishing company called Inimitable Books, dedicated to uplifting marginalized voices without pigeonholing authors into writing about their trauma. Oh, and then also, I'm a permanent co-host on this show. So I love being here, Nia.
My name is Charliee. I'm also a permanent co-host here on Authortubers React. And I make YouTube videos about writing and books. And yeah, that's me. My camera's going to be off for tonight because I'm not feeling too hot. So yeah.
Yes, all the things are going around.
Yeah, I hope you get better, Charliee.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Esther Maria Andor. I am a Puerto Rican writer aspiring to be a hybrid author, and I'm the author of Marina's Vampire, which is a Kindle Vella coffee patron serialized story. And that's me. I show whenever someone wants me to show in their house. That's the kind of person I am.
Meaning you will be seeing Esther on my channel because I'm going to be like, Esther, come hang out with me.
Yeah,
I love it. And I'm Desiree. You can find me on YouTube under Coffee Reading Writing. I post weekly videos about my writing journey on Wednesdays. I also live stream Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern, right by the Moon live streams. And you can find me on social media and Ko-fi under Desiree M. Ortega.
Your last name is so nice.
Oh, thank you.
It just kind of flows. So okay, continue.
Thank you for that, because I was never a fan of it. So that's actually nice to hear.
nice.
And I am Nia, the Vixen of Fiction. I use multiple laptops and things, and so I'm still Donner and Vixen of Fiction for the moment. But we had our holiday names. It was really fun.
Yeah.
But I'm Nia, the Vixen of Fiction. You're here on my channel. And today we are going to do our year-end wrap-up. Let me find where I just saw it. The eyes. But before we start, so I know we introduced Zara and Charliee as permanent co-hosts, but we have a couple more permanent co-hosts. Desiree and Esther! Woo! These lovely ladies have graciously agreed to join, and I'm so glad. I've told them both in IG about how much I appreciate their voice. Esther is like my eyes and ears on especially because y'all know I'm not into Twitter. I'm like, I try. Esther's like, yeah.
She's got the tea.
You see this? You hear about this? She's got all the news. But
I'm like DMing her links, and I'm like, did you see this?
You see this? I'm like,
There's
oh
another
no,
thing.
girl. Let me
Look at this.
let me run over it. Let me run over and check this out. So Yeah. So you guys know I absolutely adore Zara and Charliee and Barrett. They're wonderful. And so I'm hoping also that having Esther and Desiree will give us a little bit more freedom that when we have to miss one, we don't feel that pressure like, oh no, we're missing a co-host. So I'm really looking forward to this year coming up. Let's hello. What's that, Charlie?
I was just gonna say, just to clear the rumors, no, Barrett was not fired unless he self-exiled himself for tonight.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure it's because he's at work.
Yeah.
Like his weekend is Monday and Tuesday. The last I heard. So
yeah. So this will help Aaron out a lot too, I'm sure. Let's say hello to some of our friends because StreamYard jumped way up. Hello, JC is here. Rachel, Essie, Eva, hello. Jennifer is here. Morgan, hi. Regina, no, you are right on. I'm so glad you didn't miss it. Cool Gamer is here. Hello. So many friends come to hang out. Nicole is here. Hi. Rachel says, good evening, lovelies. Hope we're having a fabulous day. I've had a very fabulous and busy day, so I'm a little bit tired. I've been hanging on to my voice by a thread. I'm I don't feel sick, but the voice has been coming and going since Christmas. I'm like, was I yelling? We were singing. So I don't know. We were gaming, like things were going on, and I'm just like, the voice, I'm like trying to save it.
Your voice was like, that's enough socializing.
Yes, like what are we doing? Yeah. What is happening?
Time to
We're talking and singing. What's happening here?
What's all this happening?
Richard is here. Hello. Jennifer, I'm glad you're here. I'm having mixed Kindle to read. Oh, gotten it to quite yet. Holidays and all. And I know, Jennifer, you had a late holiday, so I hope that everything went well. And Zara, thank you so much, has dropped the Ko-fi links for everybody. So yeah, everybody here, I believe, has a Ko-fi. Go hit everybody up. I don't know what this is. Calorific, chaotic. Okay, Richard. I'm not a fan of my name, but I wanted to go under a pseudonym that was sexy enough and family friendly enough to sell books. But no one took me serious as long as I no.
I wonder what happened there.
That's a little unfortunate.
What went wrong?
And the announcer did the thumbnail give that away. I always have guest hosts. You never know.
Yeah, the guest hosts are always on the thumbnails.
Yeah, we always put the guests on. Barrett no, he's not. No, Barrett is not fired. Oh,
he's just busy. He has a full busy stack of days.
Yes. Hello, Nicole. Squashes the fresh rumors. Tiffany is here. Hello, Tiffany. Hello, Jess. How are you? So glad that you're here. Oh my goodness. So, guys, we have had quite a roller coaster of a year. So I wanted to talk. I think I want to talk about some of our favorites. Then we'll talk about some of our not so favorites, and then we'll end on favorites again. So, because I don't want to end on like a downer.
Let's sandwich the negativity with positivity.
We've got a few favorite things. I think maybe we'll do our favorite unpopular opinions, and then we'll do our least favorite things that may have been talked about, and then we'll talk about some of our favorite hot topics if we want to do it that way. So I know I only made one banner, but you guys know. So what have been some of you guys' favorite unpopular opinions that we've talked about? I know that when Kate did that whole survey thing where she asked everybody what their unpopular opinions were, and a lot of us were just like, is that unpopular? Because I agree.
Yeah.
I'm like,
it's like at this point, like what really constitutes as an unpopular opinion? Like probably a lot of like the spicy things that we think no one things. With the amount of people in this world, I'm sure at least 5 people in the entire world thought the same thing.
There's always someone who's gonna agree with you and always someone who's gonna disagree with you. So they can be like, oh, that's a hot take, and you're like, really? Because my friend group agrees with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's always gonna be someone who you can convince to change their mind too. So sometimes unpopular opinions can be dissuade one way or another.
This is true. I think one of my favorite ones that we've discussed, it's not that I think it's a favorite necessarily, but I love the discord around it, is the subject of what constitutes reading and what is actually good reading material. Like people who don't necessarily think that picture books count or that comic books and graphic novels.
I was thinking about audiobooks, and I'm like,
audiobooks was a big one.
Yeah, the moment you said it, I was like, oh, the audiobook.
Yeah,
the
that's the one I remember.
Huge.
Yeah. I never even thought of people being like, oh, picture books don't count. I was like, what were you reading as a kid?
It is because in the bookish community, when you move over to the bookish side, people talk about how they've read like 200 books. And some people really get mad about the audiobooks, the picture books, and the graphic novels. And the novellas. They're now mad about novellas. I'm like, stop being mad about what people are reading, because they feel like it's like, well, if you read something that's like, if you're reading a bunch of short stories or novellas, they're very short, and it makes it look like, I read 250 books. And it's like, but you're not reading like real novels. And it's like, they read it though. Like this year,
if you read a single page and it contains a story, and that person has somehow gotten it to go up on Goodreads or Book Hype, which is my favorite alternative, or the Story Graph, which I know is super popular, but you have to pay for it. Which I was like, no thanks.
Hot topic.
If there's a way that you can track it online, then I don't think anyone can say anything. And even if it's like you're personally being like, oh, I read someone's like flash fiction, like and you somehow, and you like personally track like, oh, I critique read for a friend, or like I read a friend's poem or whatever, and it's like not part of a collection or something. You read something.
Exactly. You're consuming content.
It's just like this reading challenge, instead of motivating people to read more, to like work on their speeding read or work on the type of books that they read to expand the genre and the topics that they read on, it has turned into a competition of who has the highest book number. And it's like, who cares?
Yes. Yeah, like, I think that's part of what it is.
Like, with me, I'm like, you read 200 books. Are all of them white? I'm not going to clap for you because you did nothing different. You just read more white people.
I used to read,
like there's no diversity in 200 books. Wow.
I used to easily read 100 books in like a year. Fiction, and I would like include the ones I had to read for school, because if they were a novel, I would track that too, because I still read the book. But like since I've gotten older, I maybe read 30 in a year, and like I'm doing other stuff. I'm not going to kill myself to read a bunch of books just so I have that number. Like I'd rather be happy reading the books I'm reading than being like, oh, I need to read another book, and like maybe I don't love this, but I'm not going to DNF it because then I won't be able to count it towards my book. It's like that just sounds miserable.
The whole point of reading is the pleasure of consuming stories and the experience of just what you're reading. Period. It's not about competition and trying to create a certain number. If you're enjoying what you're reading, that's what matters, and you're consuming a story, you're consuming content. That's all that's important.
Yeah. Yep. And I mean, the book publishing has enough gatekeepers for us to keep adding more gates. It's like we're not babies. We're not supposed to put gates everywhere in the house. Like let people read whatever they want to read, however they want to read it. And if they read one book on that year, if they read 100, it's just come on. Yeah.
Yes, my book count this year was 61 books, and you best believe we read The Grinch That Stole How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and that is counted as one of them. I don't care.
Yeah,
And
it does.
It is. It's a
Yeah.
story.
yeah, and guess what? It's
I
it was
do
one of
a
my
reread
favorites because it was so nostalgic. I'm like, I'm counting it.
The only people, to me, like, because now something that's going around that I see all the time now is reading journals on YouTube.
Mhm.
Like my two favorite things. But these reading journals have so many trackers in them, so I never end up watching those videos. Like, they look so aesthetically pleasing, but so unrelatable because, yeah, just back to what, was it Esther who said this? Like, you can't, like, you don't track hobbies unless you're doing, like, inventory for yourself. But doing it for the sake of comparison kills any good vibes.
Yeah. And I think that's part of the problem, that the people who actually do have a problem with the types of reading that people are doing is that they're losing that hobby and that fun of it. The people who do all those trackers and things and they enjoy that, they're reading these books and they're enjoying themselves. Whether some people are doing it because it's part of their business, if they're a big booktuber and they're like, it's part of my business to read and review and, CP and all of these other things that they're beta reading and all of the other things that they're doing. So some of it is that's part of their work. Some people, it's fun. They want it. They want those stats. But the people who are like, they're looking at, well, then they've lost the joy at it. Don't go bother the people who have read 200 books because you're not having fun. And I don't think you can critique if you can listen to a book on 2.5 and understand it. What is I think 2.5 is what? No, I think I can read
double
I
speed.
can listen at 1.75. If the author is very slow, like speaking very slow, I might be able to bump it up to 2. But different people are different. Some people can really understand when it's super sped up.
I can do that.
That's them.
I can do that for like certain podcasts, but my brain for some reason doesn't like audiobooks. Like, it just becomes white noise even when I'm trying to pay attention to it.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'd read a lot more if my brain accepted audiobooks, but I just haven't been able to yet. The only exception was Sarah Bareilles narrating her own autobiography, which I really like. I had the physical book, and in the physical book, she'll start a section and it'll have like the lyrics from a song. But what was really cool about the audiobook is that she'd sing a little bit of the song, which is the real reason I went for it. But then I was like, oh, Sarah's voice is just could listen to it all day, every day.
And see, I know audiobooks are not for me. My brain doesn't like work that way. I'm now eventually will have to buy Ready Player One because that book had I started it as an audiobook. I'm still halfway through it because it's just like I only read it while I was driving, and then I didn't have any long commutes. And if I put it on while I'm doing something, it completely it's white noise, 100% white noise. You cannot ask me what the story was about. Did not heard anything. I'm like, now I have to freaking buy the book. Skim through it and find where the audiobook left me and read the rest.
I want to get the audiobooks for Sandman because the cast is amazing. Like the Audible originals for Sandman, it's a full cast. And Audible has also done a full cast for a lot of Jane Austen ones with actors who I really like. And I had gotten Ben Barnes reading Picture Dorian Gray because I'd already read the book, and I was like, oh, and he played it in the movie, and it's a really nice voice, so it'll be fine. And I started listening to it. I was like, I know this is an actor I like. He's not reading it badly like the narrator for the Shadow and Bone books, which was awful. But I was like, I've read this book. I know what the words are. I know this voice. I know what it's going to sound like. And my brain was still I hear nothing. And I was like, I spent way too much money for this to be the outcome.
No.
To buy any full cast audiobook, even though I really want to, because I'd be like, oh, that'd be so cool.
Didn't you say that Could it also be with something like, I know you mentioned that you suffer from
Aphantasia?
Yes, that. Yeah.
It could be. I'm not totally sure. I think it's the same thing in my head where I can't dictate a story.
Oh, okay.
Like, I don't know, maybe I need to see the physical words to stay anchored where I am, and maybe that is because I have aphantasia and I'm not like seeing images as I'm reading or something. But
I am almost the opposite in the sense that audiobooks, for me, I love audiobooks. I read everything except for a couple things that I pick up because someone's bought for me or something like that, or it's a backlog in audiobook format, because it's my way of feeling productive, because I'll listen to an audiobook while doing a different hobby. So, or instead of listening to Spotify, a lot of people were shocked because my Spotify rap, I think I had like 10,000 hours or something, but that's because instead of listening to Spotify, I'm listening to an audiobook.
I'm not going to say how many hours I spent on Spotify.
Yes, I can imagine, because you're a music buff. So.
Yeah.
No, I wish the same thing. Unfortunately, it's like, if my eyes are not occupied, then I'm going to eventually drift off and not process what I'm actually hearing. Mm-hmm. So my eyes need to be focused as well as everything else, because if not, it doesn't compute at all. So I wish that I could sit and just listen to audiobooks, like doing an extra hobby while listening. Hey,
oh my gosh, Barrett, we thought you went to Narnia or something. You know, there was rumors that you had been fired or you self-fired yourself, aka drama.
Yeah, you just resigned.
Yeah.
I made a big cup of tea that's steeping.
That is worthy of a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to make good tea.
No, sorry, I had to work late, so I'm late because of work. Hello.
Oh, so you didn't actually spend that much time making your tea?
No, I literally just did it on the fly as I walked in the door. My husband had it steeping for me.
That's so cute.
Awesome. Good hubby.
Framework.
Yes.
So what did I miss? Sorry to be late.
We're talking about we did the announcement, Barrett. You missed it.
Yes.
Barrett was salty. Start the rumors. Let it spread. No. Barrett's not salty at all.
I mean, it takes
so happy.
Barrett's salty that he missed the announcement because of work. This is much more fun.
So let me make you feel a lot better. It takes 2 Puerto Ricans to substitute a gay man.
I'm not touching that.
Zara's like, nope.
Not going there.
That's why I say I'm gonna make you feel better.
Bless. Yeah. No, sorry to be late.
No, you're good.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
Okay, so Nia talked about how her favorite unpopular opinion of this past year was our discussion on what counts as reading, and then we got into the whole audiobook discussion because it was a good discussion.
We briefly were like, because apparently some people are mad at counting picture books and short stories and other things, but then we were talking about the audiobooks, and a lot of us on screen are like, I would love audiobooks, my brain just doesn't like them.
Yeah. And I was just going to say, because
yes.
I was just going to say, because of the way my brain works, I'm more like Charliee. I love audiobooks. They're very immersive for me. So as long as I'm not working on, like if I start intensely working on something, then I can't do an audiobook. But if I'm drawing or if I'm doing dishes or vacuuming, like an audiobook is like heaven. It's just like listening to music. And it's very immersive. Unless it's also a bad narrator. Then I'm like,
bad narrators, no.
Yeah, bad narrator will ruin it.
Want to hear a bad narrator? I don't know why you would ever want to, but someone pirated the Shadow and Bone audiobook and put it on, and let's just say male Russian accents are not done well.
Oh, okay.
By a American white woman, and you can tell, and it's like all the guys sound the same except the Darkling, who suddenly sounds a lot deeper, but it sounds really bad, and it's like
No.
I see.
Oh,
It took
no.
me 2 months to read the first 3 chapters by audiobook, and then I was like,
Wow.
screw this. And I just bought the book and I read it in 2
One
hours.
sitting. Yeah.
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 It's easier to go at your own pace than the pace of the audiobook.
Mm.
But for me, I honestly, like, contrasting Desiree, TV shows, those are like visually appealing. It is so hard for me to stay with a TV show. There are I got into TV shows more so this year than previous, but it is so hard for me to find a series that I will watch for more than the first episode because I just get so bored. I'm like, I could just be listening to this, doing my own thing, but now I'm sitting here with my eyes glued. What am I doing? Except for maybe
Interesting.
My experience with shows now is I will be looking at other things. Like I can listen. And my husband's like, "Are you getting everything?" I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know if it's because I'm so used to listening to audiobooks." But I'm like, I don't even have to be necessarily looking at the screen to be taking in everything. I can glance at the
I
screen.
have to be
watch
watching
the scenery.
the screen.
I have to be
If it's the
because
first
I
time, if it's
know.
the first time I've ever seen anything, I have to be watching it. But like, I would watch Vampire Diary reruns with my mom, and she was like never as interested, but she'd always be on her iPad. And I'm like, "Why are you on your iPad if you're watching this with me?" She's like, "Well, you're not looking." I'm like, "Because I've seen it 3 times."
Yeah,
Or
I can-
NCIS.
Yeah.
I can do that with shows that are not that aren't very
Cinematic.
nice. Cinematically. So like for example, Marvel movies, I will watch a lot of. Not saying that Marvel movies are B-rated, but I'll watch a lot of B or C or D-rated stuff because generally the reason why they're bad is that you don't need to pay attention to the visuals because everything is said and everything you need to know is said in the tone of the voice / bad acting, or maybe it's good acting, but it's just bad script or whatever. Either way, I don't need to pay attention. But for like certain movies, like all the Hitchcock movies, like it's important to see what's happening with the subtext. And I'm like,
or the
my
Knives
brain,
Out films. You need
Yeah.
to watch those. Like, yeah, they say a lot, but most of it's not said.
exactly.
think
And I
for
love
me,
when movies are like that. But
I think for me, I have to pay attention to TV series and movies because probably this is because of my brain that it not only analyze what it hears, it analyze everything that I see. So I find that a lot of like clues and things that will like level up the what they're talking about, it's on the image. It's like on what you see. So you will see me watching something, but you will see my eyes going all over the screen, looking at every single little thing. And if I have control to pause, I will pause and watch.
Have you watched Glass Onion yet on Netflix?
Yes, that I have to. I have to
I
watch.
bet
that.
you're
The
going to be pausing that all the time.
wait, it's called The
Oh.
Last Onion?
Glass
called
Onion.
Glass
It's like knives.
Onion.
It's like a
It's
Knives
called a
Out
Knives
type.
Out, but it's
okay,
a
like the
original
spin,
film.
yeah.
I love those.
Yeah.
Anything that's like a clue or a mystery, I do watch because I don't want to miss a clue, a visual.
They insult the game clue so hard in Glass Onion. I
love it.
cracked up.
Yeah. So one example is I recently finished Rings of Power, and there were like so many moments that I just paused and I was like,
Did you figure out who the person is? Because visually
I
they were
mean,
used.
I don't mind spoilers, and my feed in Twitter was kind of like full of Rings of Power related things, so I had an idea, but I was more into the visuals and kind of like tying things with the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So I didn't care much for the big reveals of the characters. I was like,
I just care more
I'm
about
just
the
like-
big reveal because there were all these articles where it's like, oh, in hindsight, the way this character was always lit in comparison to this other character, it's like, surprise! And I was like,
yeah,
not really.
I was just like more like little cultures that we saw in Lord of the Rings, we saw in the series, and we're like,
We're dancing around it.
yeah, I'm like dancing super around it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So like,
Yeah, I
it's
am
just
too.
like-
I'm not.
It's just like kind of like hints that someone like me who watches Lord of the Rings when I'm bored, I was able to like, ooh, and this and that. It lights up my brain.
You
And
know,
most of that is just the image. It's not what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And see, for me, that's so funny just hearing how everyone processes what they watch. For me, because I was an actor and I did theater and everything, I love paying attention to mannerisms and the little things that an actor will do that are subtle. I'll pause and rewind and watch over and over again because it's just those little moments that are just so good. And so that's why I have to like pay attention. I'm like watching how they act and how their different mannerisms are what they're doing, and I love all that. So that's interesting. Just everyone's different take on how they pay attention to what they're watching or not.
Yeah, no, my fantasy stuff and my mysteries, those I pay attention to, and I don't like missing anything. Mostly the fantasy because I like to see how another creator has, what they saw when they were reading the thing or reading the script and how they made it come together. But like contemporary stuff, I'm just like, okay, they're in the office. Now I can go back about almost like I'm doing an audiobook and whatever they're saying, and I'll glance back to look if they
you
change
said
the
that, and I'm like, I don't remember the last time I watched a normal contemporary like TV show or movie, because like the most contemporary show that I was watching recently was Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which while contemporary, they're still solving crimes, which means there are clues to look for.
I watch a lot of Asian dramas. That's most of my contemporary thing, and I'm watching it. Granted, there are a lot of pretty people and a lot of pretty places, so it's very engaging.
There's a lot to look at.
No judgment. No judgment.
So
Love it.
I'm watching it. I'm not like looking at other things.
Unfortunately, a lot of the fantasy TV shows, not all of them, but a lot of them, I find the production level is very low budget. So it doesn't matter if I pay attention to the visuals because it's just there for me. So audiobook.
That is something that has been happening, and I don't know if it's intentional or not. Like it's probably something that we can use as its own discussion.
Yeah.
But some of the quality on some of the things, I'm just like, it almost looks like a game. If that makes sense. Is what it feels like it looks like to me. And I'm like, what's happening?
It's
like you look forward and then we move back into the side a little.
Well, it's like they didn't fully render it to look like reality. It's like the most uncanny valley, like most real computer game while knowing it, or like, AR, VR, whatever. And you're just
I think maybe it's because a lot of us grew up watching a lot of fantasy movies and series that use practical effects. And now movies and TVs rely a lot on CGI. That could be a reason why we might perceive it as like the level of artistry is going down. I
know that in a lot of it could just be the style. And I mean, this is another hot take that we've, I think, touched on a little bit, is what style and what is just bad. But I know that when we're talking specifically about like Asian fantasy dramas, oh my gosh, the first episode, I'm always like, was this made in 1900s? But
Charliee. Some of us remember a lot of. Okay, that's like.
I do get it.
But I mean, like some characters are jumping like 15 meters, but it looks like a hop. It just like copy and paste multiple times, like single stop motion animation.
Yeah, like they do this like one sweep of the leg and 100 people fall down, and you're like, what? What happened here?
Well, what's also really funny is when that happens in like a high budget film, like in what was it, the second one in the new Star Wars trilogy, the fight Yeah, there was the fight in the throne room. Someone falls before they've even been hit.
Oh.
It's like someone in the background, but like it's been pointed out online so many times.
Oh no.
Yeah. And I mean,
Yeah,
I guess there's also the consistency part. Like, if it's consistent, then you get used to it. But it's so funny.
Yeah,
This
when
is
it's
true.
consistent now, you can be like, oh, it's a style. Like I'm not vibing with this style.
Mm.
I saw a TikTok on my For You page where it was like, we're in the age of like fantasy TV, and you know the casting is good and the visuals are good, and we just had a discussion about like maybe that's not true, but like, and they're like, but it seems these big studios forgot that the stories also have to be good, and I was like, hot take.
Yeah.
I mean, are we talking the 80s Doctor Who or the early 2000s reboot?
Yeah, when you say early Doctor Who, do you mean like early as
early are we talking about?
I don't.
Let me tell you that 80s Doctor Who. I mean, we watched it when we were kids, but
there's some early episodes that would be. There are a lot of things that are considered problematic now. Like How I Met Your Mother could not be made now. Neither could Friends.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of my mom tried to watch the original James Bond films when like Daniel Craig, like his final one was coming out. My mom's like, oh, I want to watch all of them. And she like got 5 minutes into one. I wasn't even with her. I didn't know she was doing this. And she texts me and our family friend who really likes like classic movies and, you know, that and other famous franchises and stuff. And she's like, I tried watching this, but like, this is so sexist. And we're like, yeah, that's his character. Like,
yeah, character and
the epitome of
what makes them lovable.
It is a miracle. A lot of people that were born or raised in the 80s and 90s are decent people, because the media wasn't.
Yeah,
those who can adapt.
RTV was wild.
I do think it's funny, and I may have a unique. This is one of the first times I've been in a room where I've actually been like a minority where I can say this, but like I've been in a unique position where I've always been well represented in media. It is until there is a point where you like realize it and you kind of notice it, you know, when you do, and probably it was obviously being gay looking for that in media, which wasn't there when I first came out. So I think it is interesting, like when you do see it through that lens of like, oh wow, it really is. It means something to be seen. And
yes,
it really does. There's something to it. So yeah.
Oh yeah, it does mean something to be seen.
I mean,
which
it
is
didn't
why
mean you all, but I just thought, oh, look, something I could give to the panel. That's
it's like me too.
And any other favorite hot take? I'm trying to think.
What are
favorite hot takes?
Yeah, from
favorite unpopular opinions, and then we're sandwiching the stuff. So we're starting with fun stuff, then we're gonna talk about some of the stuff that we didn't like so much, and then we're gonna end with some of our favorite hot topics at the end. So
I love that.
Kind of sandwiching.
Yeah.
Talking about the bad art friend was a good conversation.
Yeah,
that was
fun.
Yes.
That was fun, and like I feel like an old lady with a tea on a rocking chair, just chatting with, like, bashing someone I may not know or know. It's just good gossip.
It was, and I think
it was fun.
what made it more fun, and we're gonna roll because this kind of rolls into some of my least favorite topics. The fact that it was big, public, and people we don't really know these people, even though I do know a few people who said that they were in some of those Facebook groups and kind of like in the shadows saw the foreshadowing of the things that were about to go down. So that was fun, but they were still very much in the peripheral of this big thing that was happening on the outside, you know, of like Authortube and us, and it was public, and so it felt like talking about it wasn't taboo. It could just be fun because everybody was talking about it.
I'll give one on this real quick from the last year. I think there were 2 times last year where like without meaning to, we got really close to the stuff we were talking about. And by that I mean sometimes like they showed up. With
Yes.
who? Or like other just times this year where it was odd that the way, we'd talk about something and then somehow the person would be there or contact us later, or just odd things like that I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
So-
a downer. That was a not hot topic.
But well,
Yeah.
like it kind of, people think the writing and the author and the publishing community is really big, and it's
small.
not.
It's
It's very
small.
small.
Mhm.
And it survives by having multiple small groups
Right.
that connect with each other by one or two people. And it's just like, it's the best example of a network.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
And it is a living network. And you don't have to like censor yourself when you're talking about things. You just have to pay attention of the words that you're using. I mean, we're writers. We know how much words have meaning and have weight.
Right.
So this bad art friend kind of topic has kind of like, I have seen it like niche down like in smaller groups, and sometimes it doesn't get resolved because people feel like icky talking about it, and I'm like, no, you should. You just have to be mindful in how you approach the topic. Because if no one calls out that bad friend, that person is never going to change.
Yeah.
And they're just going to keep on doing the same thing to a different friend, someone they find more interesting, more worthy of their writing time or whatever. So it's, is it an unpopular opinion to talk about it, or is it I don't think it should be. I think the unpopular thing is like the way we approach it.
Yeah. I agree. I think like there was the topic where someone didn't think that if you're in the community and then you say something that is going to offend half of the community, it puts us in a very awkward position. So when we talked about the subject of you know indie published books
Oh,
are no good, that was like one of the worst. But when you're hearing your friends actually being hurt
right.
by someone else in the community, it's just like, oh my goodness, this is so awful. And so it almost feels like you need to address it, but you can still address it without calling out someone who has a small channel.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I've always said my platform is not a call out someone else's channel. My channel is not here to tear down another Authortuber. It's not here to tear down another Authortube channel. That's not what it's here for. So if you come in and you're like, I'm angry at this Authortuber and let's just rip them apart, not here, not on my channel. You can do that on yours. Because even though I have a bigger channel, I'm not a big Authortuber, but it still looks like I have a bigger, my channel is growing, so shockingly, but
Not
so
shockingly.
it.
You have great content, Nia.
And you can
Thank
come to me for those call out videos because I got y'all there.
Yeah,
Over to me.
exactly.
Okay.
But I feel like I can't if I want to grow the community and I want to grow and be inclusive here on my channel, I can't do that if people are afraid of me. Like, oh, I can't make the kind of content that I want because Nia's going to talk about me on Authortubers React. And I'm like, no, make the content you want to make. But if something hurts people in the community, I also want them to have a safe space to talk about the thing without necessarily, you don't have to bash the person. And the people,
but
the
also
person
if you're worried that you're going to end up on an Authortubers React, maybe that's a sign that like your take is a harmful one.
Or maybe the way you presented it, because the topic about indie books have been talked way too long.
Yes.
And it's like people just stop trying to put people down because they're not taking the same path you deem worth it. But if you decide to talk about a topic and it is a controversial or unpopular opinion, know that people might want to talk about the same topic and be on the other side of the conversation. And it's
people are gonna know who you
that
are.
doesn't mean they are talking to you directly. They probably just wanting to add to the conversation to the broader topic. And I think this is what Authortubers React does mostly. They just see a situation and they extract the topic out of it and talk about that. Unless it's a like a personality or a celebrity that what they are doing is harmful, I don't think this is the platform that we're gonna start pointing fingers and be like, oh, you bad, go to the corner or something like this. It's just like we want to talk about the topic and kind of like have a place where everyone on screen and chat to express their opinion.
Yeah. And if you thought a certain way and were verbal about a certain way that you thought, well, now you know what our opinions are of it. And you know, it's like, you know, and if you make the video, everybody is going to know who you are. But you don't need me to be squashing down somebody who may have not intended to be harmful. You know, because I can't know people's intention.
Now
that's on that type of a subject. That doesn't mean on other types of subjects. If someone is actually harmful to someone in the community, no. I'm like, why are you even here? Why are you even on my channel if you don't like certain demographics of people? Look around. This is not the place.
If you make a comment about my accent or about me being Puerto Rican or whatever, I'm like, there's gonna be consequences after that. Like, this is not the platform to bash people, whether they are on chat, on screen, or completely out of the conversation.
So one thing that I think that we covered, like that's been a common theme throughout this year that I enjoy talking about, is the idea of accountability, but not just pushing accountability onto someone else, but you yourself taking accountability without having to be nagged or without having to be like punished in front of other people or things like that. And that's one topic that I like that we've covered and has been kind of constant with all our hot topics, because at the end of the day, that's really important to learn.
Yeah, that was a great talk about what's accountability and what is cancel culture, which is just flashy way to call consequences.
Yes.
How
that's been weaponized, you know. It's like I see what you've done with this word, but let's now just call it what it is. You know, if you say or do something, there's going to be consequences. People are going to feel and think a certain way about your behavior, you know, and that's on you if you do the thing.
Right. And I think that discussion was so important because we talked about how like people, normally those who are big like initiators in cancel culture, they can easily become bullies.
Yeah.
And then the whole idea of accountability gets lost. But then I think we've also touched upon how it's important that it does show you that people aren't afraid to speak out now, and you have to be accountable, and you have to watch what you're putting out there, and you have to watch what you're doing.
Well, and it's funny because I think it's just for the few folks that look like me that may be watching, but I think what I've learned and what's helpful is to think about, you know, when the people, you know, the part for us that's uncomfortable is we're not used to having to temper ourselves or go into a room and code switch or I don't know. There's just a different way that you move through the world when the world is always about you. And so I think that, you know, what's hard to imagine for some people, and why I think it pushes them away from this conversation when we talk about cancel culture, is just that, you know, when we're talking about it, we talk about it from an accountability standpoint. And for folks that have just really never had to look outside of the bubble of that, the world has always been about us. And so we've never been uncomfortable in situations or had to make those adjustments to ourselves to imagine it. It doesn't feel real until it starts to happen to you. And so unless you're, in some way marginalized, you may never realize it. And then that's where I think this discussion breaks down for white people.
And this is how prejudice and racism get really confused by a lot of white folks. It's like, I'm like, let's find a dictionary here.
There is, I think, a spectrum of learning everywhere that I like to always leave open, and in some cases have left wide open for too long. But I always like to give folks chances. And so I think there is always a spectrum too of like where you give folks space to like learn and grow and hear people out and understand. And sometimes also I think the great thing about this group specifically and the folks that we've had on is that I think it's okay to disagree. And there's lots of where we're up here where we do disagree and we don't all land on the same side of an issue. Go back and rewatch the Is Audiobook Reading one. And you watch the most uncomfortable hour and a half of your life because we all lived it. So watch that one.
That was something.
But we've come out on, look at how we can talk about it now, coming out on the other side of it. We had that.
Laugh and love and move on. But the point is, we can all disagree. And at the end of the day, or even work through difficult conversations. And I think that's okay. I think that's good. I think it's good to have those conversations in safe spaces where you feel comfortable.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
Anything we don't want to do again?
I think the only thing I think I don't know that I want to do again. Okay, so we did this one reaction to someone that I can't remember his name. All of a sudden, I meant to write it down. The guy who wrote the book and then complained that nobody read the book.
Oh my gosh!
Right?
Oh, about the greatness of the bear scene, right?
The bear. Yeah.
So I loved the topic, but one of the things we reacted to was somebody else's comments on the person's looks, and I was like, "This is a little cringe." Where literally we didn't say this. The person, someone else said it, and we're just responding, like we're reacting to what they said. But it starts to look a little bit like, are we now dogging this guy's looks? Because it's not about anybody's
like it
looks.
should be about work or the actions. It shouldn't be about
right. But I think I want to be just more aware or more clear that when we're reacting to something, and maybe just in general stay away from people's looks. But it wasn't us. It was someone else said it. We were reacting to.
Also, we don't have to react to everything that happens under the sun. One, it is impossible. Like there's so many things that are happening.
I know. Esther's always updating me on Twitter, and I'm like, no, it didn't. No, they didn't.
I mean, there was a day that I think I sent them, like, I don't know, 3 to 4 different things happening on the same day. Oh and at one point I was just like, oh, I get a headache. I'm leaving Twitter. I'm not doing this anymore.
There was the one we did Authortubers React, and it had literally been like a slow 3 weeks. And then as soon as the next day, like stuff just started popping up. We were like, oh, well, we thought that the writing community could behave for a little while.
Things were quiet. They were too quiet.
Funny. I remember Nia was like, oh, nothing's gonna happen in like 2 weeks. The next day I sent her a link and I was like, you said?
No, there was a day where Nia was like, oh, nothing. And then I sent her 3 links about something. And she was like, I should just keep my mouth shut. Thing. And I was like, of course she did.
It's like every time I'm like, wow, nothing's going, and now watch something.
You did not come now.
Every time I'm like, nothing's really happening.
Yeah.
Boom. It just stuff blows out.
It's like whenever a character in a book or a movie, and sometimes unfortunately real life, where it's like, it can't get worse than this. The narrator
had to say
it got worse.
Open.
Well, you know what's funny? I've been like I don't know what it is, but I've been watching on Twitter through Esther on the AuthorTube stuff, and I've been dabbling in some other things in the last few months, and I've been involved in another community on Twitter, just watching, really not participating. And the funny thing is the drama and the cycle of stuff. There's been a lot of like talking head pieces about like, well, the writing community is just so toxic, and there's so much going on in publishing, and y'all, this is I'm looking at a niche that is literally freaking candles, okay? And like the same stuff happens, like companies doing stupid stuff and getting called, it's like I'm watching this stuff and I'm like, this feels just like publishing, but like a different.
This is why it doesn't affect me in publishing, because I'm like, oh, I already lived this in K-pop. Like this
that
is
must
the
be it.
same thing in K-pop.
It's same book, different cover. That's all.
Yeah. It's more just like I see the stupidity happening in any field, and I'm like, really? Like we learned nothing?
No.
Like that's really what it is. It's not even like, oh, this is new. I'm like, I know it's not new. That's what makes it worse.
Yeah. I think a lot of like, not that it's not offensive or not that people don't have a right to be offended or anything, but I think a lot of the writing tube toxicity ideas come from the fact that because we're so small, everyone knows everyone, and so it's so easily to get personally offended.
Yeah, that's true. There's probably some of that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of goes with it's hard for us to separate emotions from the books. Like for the longest time, until we fall in love with another story, our heart and almost our identity relies on the most recent book we finished. So any critique against that, it feels personal because we haven't been able to separate ourselves from that. And it's part of like art. Anything related with art, it's really hard to take criticism when a lot of yourself is being poured into your art. Whether you write, you make music, you paint, you sculpture, you knit, whatever, your art is like giving out. So anything that anyone says will feel like an attack, because this is what I physically made out of all of my emotions.
Right.
Why would you say it's not good? This is all of my emotions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And even if it's not something you made, but like, let's say you know the creator, or it's someone's insulting your favorite book series, and maybe it has like emotional resonance to you beyond just being like the actual plot, but it's like maybe this is the book series that made you fall in love with reading and you hadn't been before, and then someone's like, oh, that's a shitty book. You're gonna get hurt by that. And like obviously in that instance you didn't write the book. Or if someone's like, oh, this character sucks, and you're like, that's the one I identified with most, and then that's like, are you saying I suck because I saw myself in this character? And it's just like the work is different than the person. But if a person has a habit of bad behavior, then we're also going to talk about that too.
All right, so we have been here for an hour, so let's wrap things up with some any more of our favorite topics.
I like the one where the sister-in-law was copying the other author, like the covers and the concepts and the romance marketing, and it was just like, a lot of romance book covers and marketing are similar, but this is like too crazy. Like it's absolutely can't be.
And part of the reason why I love that topic was because it felt like we were like, I mean, obviously we knew the topic beforehand, but it felt like we were also discovering it together because we were looking up concepts, we were looking at evidence and stuff like that. So the entire thing was like on point to the topic, but also kind of fun. I mean, this entire thing is fun, but you know what I mean.
It was very like focused on it, and
and the whole discovery of everything, because I remember the evolution within the chat as well. People were like, it's a romance novel, of course it's gonna have the guy.
And I was saying that on screen, and then we looked at the examples and we're like, oh,
It is,
Right.
and
I
watching
was
the
surprised
chat go
with
through
it.
the evolution that I went through when I was researching this, I was like the same way. I was like, romance novel. I mean, it's got the same beats. So, okay, so they're both at a ski resort. Fine. I mean, but it's still
Or
going
it's
to
like,
have the
oh,
same
if you
beats.
like this book, your next book boyfriend is blank. It's like young
And
adult
then
has
when
been
you,
doing that for years, even before like adult romance was like, hey, we could steal this like marketing template too. And then you're like,
it was so identical. It was insane. I was like, this poor woman. And then the whole additional drama, the
Yeah,
family drama that went along
weren't they
with it.
like related? Were they related to them?
Sister-in-law.
Their husbands, I think, were brothers. So it was a sister-in-law that was
I
doing
thought
it.
I remembered that. I was like, you guys think about.
And then we
Christmas.
were talking about like Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what would that be like type of thing? Which video was that? So I can link it in the chat.
I don't know.
Not at Thanksgiving. Way before then, I think.
Yeah, no. We were talking about like what would their Thanksgiving be like?
Yeah,
what
and
would their
family
Thanksgiving
dinners, dysfunctional
Yeah.
families. We felt a little bit better about our families that day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's true, right? God, I love
I was shocked when I saw the covers compare. I'm like, ooh.
Oh.
And how the books
This
would
is
literally be
amazing.
written and come out a month after the other woman's would come out
Or
is just like, wow.
the marketing stuff that looked like she like
Yeah.
literally took her stuff and
Copy
somehow
paste.
copy pasted it in Canva or something to be like identical. I was like, this is embarrassing. Like she didn't even bother to change fonts. Like
Mm-mm.
Oh,
it
no.
was bad.
Was it
Like changing one
before?
word.
Were we like, if you're gonna steal better? Or something?
Yeah.
At least like try harder to hide
So
it.
was that before the Brandon Sanderson Kickstarter?
Oh my gosh, I forgot that.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
happened this year.
Okay, I
This
clicked
isn't
on the
real.
stream that was about that has the like the visual reading versus the audiobook one, but I don't remember which stream had the copying drama.
Oh. We
'Cause
could
it's-
probably go back and look at our conversations later and put it in like the comments or something tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Let's do that.
We'll put it in the comments in the next 365 days.
Sometime.
We will have found it and linked it. Or you could go back and give Nia the watch hours
Yeah.
in 12
Give them
videos.
a rewatch.
Oh, it was January 2022. Oh,
Charliee.
sorry, January.
Charliee is on it.
Charliee,
Wow.
Charliee.
first episode of the year. Boom.
Oh wow.
Wow.
I didn't mean to do like such a big throwback when I mentioned that one, but it was just
I did see the Courtney Project drama.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
I
because
read the post they
me
did.
too. Esther posted it. And I was like, girl. I was at work just reading. A customer
wait,
came
I
in.
missed it.
What
What?
is this?
Oh wait. So okay,
So-
wait.
Okay.
So
Okay. Go ahead.
sends
Go ahead.
Esther sends this thing, and I'm on my way to work. It's early, and so Esther's up all late. So I wake up and see it like super early in the morning. I go in, do an inventory. It's like 6 in the morning. I start reading it, and I'm like, oh, So anyway, I sit and read this whole thing. Don't do one bit of my job I'm supposed to be. They're paying me for. 2 hours later, I'm still reading this long blog post from Courtney because she's got links. She's brought receipts. I'm like,
Wow.
I went down that rabbit hole. So anyway, later I'm still finishing the first hour, and then I'll let Esther tell what actually had happened. But I'm sitting at the counter with customers walking up to it to check out, and I made them wait while I finished a paragraph. I was like, this is from our card account manager, and I cannot run your transaction until I finish this instruction. I'm gonna have
Oh my
1 second. He was like, no, she didn't, and then put it down. Okay, go, Esther. Tell them.
So, there's a romance author that has been copying Kennedy Fox pretty much their entire marketing plan through social media, not only TikTok. For years. They've been dealing with this. They have reached out, all of the everything they have tried to do backstage, so no one knew about this for years until they were done with it, done, because this author not only copy they copy font style. Oh god, Brooke, which is the other, like the
Writer.
other for Kennedy Fox. She usually, a lot of her reels in TikTok are when she is packaging the signed copies, and she has a very specific process for it. Like you can see all of her packaging; they're all the same. You go to that author, they put all of those reels in the long post. They are exactly the same, even to the font that is used on TikTok. Like it's copy paste.
And
It's just
she had screenshots of every communication.
Every communication they did.
I mean, y'all, it was hours. I went to see every. I was like, oh, you can blow that up. Oh, I was like, it was juicy. It was a whole morning for me. It was good. I love it.
Riley's asking why I'm a liar because I told her there's no more chicken when there really is.
I saw chicken. What are you talking about?
He's like, I smell chicken.
Riley's like, that is chicken.
Yeah,
I gave her some.
It was very interesting. That was another rabbit hole that I went late at night.
I
remember when all that happened. Yep.
That is what. I mean, they obviously got caught, but why do people think why do people do this?
And I mean,
it's a success thing, right? Like it speaks a lot to like their success, and that's great, right? I think on the one hand, you feel this reminds me of what the sister-in-law or whatever said about like it feels great, sure, that like I'm flattered, my cop, but then there's the point where it stops feeling great, it starts feeling stalkerish, and that's the part that I think was so unsettling about reading Courtney's is you really had that feeling of like it gets creepy, when someone's like literally copying your stuff. And there was a couple times, Esther, wasn't it, where like it wasn't even like minutes after the Courtney Project would post something, she would have a similar
and they block their multiple accounts because they have multiple pen names. And if they get caught on a pen name, they will switch to the next pen name and copy their strategy.
Which is crazy.
It was kind of crazy.
So it feels I feel for that. I'm like, that was so,
I think I found the post. Let me make sure.
Sir, I love you and your receipts. You always
she's on top of those.
Let me make sure, but it is.
Book. There it is.
People who get blocked on an account and then take the energy to use another account to go after the same person. I'm like, obviously you don't have a life, but like, come on.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah,
that's a lot of work to do.
It happened on May 27, 2022. I'll share it on chat.
Yeah, that was a good 2022 tea spill. There's, like I said, we didn't have a lack of like stuff to chitter chatter about. No. There's always
there were times that Nia had to like choose.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like which one y'all want to do?
Yeah. Well, and we even
have three options. You can pick one.
Yeah. Well, and we had one where I think we got too spicy. We took the whole thing down, didn't we?
We did have one. Yes. And that
first
first time it just got to be where, okay, so I mentioned a person that I'm not going to mention now, but I didn't call that person by their name. No. So I said I didn't like this particular person, and I called them something else that's very popular to call them. It's not a bad word. It's just, a Cheeto, so and that's all, that's basically all I said. And in the chat, someone did tell me to calm down. And this is something that women of color, particularly Black women, get told a lot. If we have an opinion about something, we're told to calm down. I'm like, I'm not upset, but okay.
No, that was weird.
Or it's like, this is not me upset. I can.
You haven't seen me upset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like, no.
Yeah, I could be upset about this, but this was not it. And then Barrett mentioned something that, in my opinion, was factual. But Zara was careful to say allegedly, and I don't know.
Because I didn't want you to get in trouble with the YouTube channel.
Not in trouble anyway. Not in trouble anyway. I'm like, what did we even say?
Well, and I'm glad, but I'm glad we took it down, and you were right. And again, we crossed that line. But I do think that's something, again, that we were transparent about. And again, it happens. We talk about it. We go, yeah, we probably went a little too far on that one, and we reeled it in.
I think more, at least my memory of it, and maybe I'm wrong, but to me, the real problem of it was what was happening in the chat. Like, we were all civil on screen, but there was some like not good stuff happening in the chat, and Nia was just like, I don't want this being associated with my channel. I don't want people to see this and like get upset.
Yeah, it became where it wasn't even worth it.
I also, if we were even going to talk about
happened,
to do it, if we were to do that little conversation over, the only thing I would do differently is never name the person. That was the lesson we learned. If we stay in generals, where we just talk about general concepts, we're free to talk about a thing, and people can go research and find out for themselves like what we're talking about. We can totally do that, and that's what should have happened. And the mistake was, I think I named the person, and then from there we all talked about it, and that was the mistake. It should have stayed more broad, and we could have still had the same conversation, which would have accomplished the same goal, which was actually a really good conversation. It was
a great conversation.
Right?
I'm just like,
a great conversation. So yeah.
But it's not it to me, that the particular two people that we discussed were not worth me losing my channel over. I'm like,
absolutely not.
That
and Nia
would be the worst. Those two,
Nia messaged
it would not be worth it.
Yeah, Nia was like, "Oh, by the way, I'm taking this down, like just so you know." And we were like, "Yeah, absolutely. Like, do what you need to do."
Yeah. Already, because I'm like, if someone's already, reported something that they didn't like that we said, and I got the section, so I could just take out the section. But if that person that reported it could just keep sending people back to my channel, I'd rather it be gone. Plus, I mean, once I edit it, we lose the chat anyway. But that's another thing. I do want to be more careful about people who claim to be in our community that are not really part of the community. They're just here to antagonize us.
Yeah.
So I do want to be more aware of that. And I want my people with wrenches to feel free that if you are seeing someone who's not adding to the conversation, they're antagonizing or deliberately trying to rile up the chat and take us off the rails, go ahead and time them out. If you're not sure if can I block them or whatever, if you're not sure, go ahead and time them out, and then we can discuss it later. Because there have been times when Zara and I were like, I thought this person was a friend, but they're saying really weird stuff. And I need this to be a safe space for people. And if I've got someone who's in the chat antagonizing people, antagonizing me, antagonizing Zara, that's not safe. It's not safe for the chat. It's not safe for us.
And the only reason Nia is saying my name is that I'm an admin through her StreamYard. Like, there are other mods on her YouTube channel, and they're all great. And So I trust you, mods. That if I've modded you, I trust you. If you see something weird, go ahead and time them out, and then you can ask me or even Zara, and then I'll take any heat. If someone's like, that's not what I meant, I'll take the heat for it. If it really isn't what they meant, and I'll be like, look, we have to be aware that there have been people before who did not have good intentions.
And I think
sometimes it took a while to show that, and so we would be like, oh, they're here.
I thought this person was a friend.
Think about it until later.
And if you're wrenched, ask forgiveness, not permission.
Yeah. It's better timing out someone, and then you can just reach out and ask, or just time them out and then hear that the final decision will be made.
No one has ever timed anyone out in a stream of mine in chat that I haven't intended to, except Nia. I blocked her from one of my streams.
I was. Oh my god! So I'm in the chat. You know how you go into the chat and you're like hi to people, and I come in and I'm totally ignoring them. I'm like, oh wow! And so something was mentioned that was like literally right up my alley, and so I make a comment, totally ignored. I'm like, even the people in chat are ignoring me. I'm like, I understand. Barrett doesn't want to pop the comment up. That's fine, but even the chat people. It's so that I messaged somebody, I think maybe Eva or somebody. I'm like, do you see? And they're like, no, I don't see you commenting. I'm like, oh no. Or maybe it was Sandra, I don't remember who, but I was like, can you see my comment? Because did I do something?
I totally missed
Have
this.
I been canceled? What happened? What did I do?
Oh my gosh.
It was funny
That's
because you
funny.
can still comment,
I get
which
the
is
email
now
from
I
it's
know.
like,
You can
"Nope,
still
you're mad at me."
comment and
You don't know
what's
that
going
you're
on.
Right. You just think people don't like you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that was funny.
It was. We can laugh about it now.
We can laugh
Yes.
now. We can laugh now. All in good fun.
Oh gosh. Any other topics you guys want to talk about before we wrap it up? Because we're done. It's
I did wanted to touch on the how eye opening the Penguin and Simon Schuster trial was. I mean, it for
Strike.
some of us it confirmed things, and for some it was very eye opening. I wish a lot more was shared because I have a feeling that they still hide a lot of things. But I'm glad that it happened, and I'm glad that everyone saw it.
Yes, readers saw it, writers saw it. You know, everybody in the publishing industry, from top to bottom, got to see it, and we literally got to see that some of the people at the very top, wheeling and dealing all of the money, have no idea how they're even what they're doing,
right.
how they're running these companies, and it's just like our careers are in your hand, and you're just playing games. Okay, it's like wow.
Yeah, and
We
I
have
hope
so
people
much
who
money
still
when we-
want to do, and I still hope people who want to do trap pop to still try to do it. Especially if you're in any minority community, your voice and your books are needed. And if you're attempting to get to the kid lit, it's like the community even more. There's so many kids that need to see themselves in their schools, in their libraries, in bookstores. Like, please keep persevering. Don't let white conceited male people
and if
rob
you
you from that.
and if you or anyone you know can support We Need Diverse Books, they not only help get like diverse books by diverse authors into school libraries and things like that, but they also have grants and mentorship for people of color and other diverse identities who want to get into publishing to help hopefully one day diversify it. The problem is that it's even the diverse people who go in as like interns or entry level, it's a really hostile environment, so they often don't stay. So We Need Diverse Books is working on like both ends of the people who are making the books and the people who like where you can get the books. So that's a really good organization to support if you
Good
can.
night, Richard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I gotta say, honestly, the strangest things that happen is that this has made me want more to try to trad pub.
Yeah.
Me too. It really reaffirmed, like, I always wanted to be hybrid because I don't want to put my eggs in all one basket. And also because I do understand some genres work better on one end than the other. But I also, whatever ends up happening with the status in Puerto Rico, I want more Puerto Rican voices that are not Puerto Ricans who were born and raised in the U.S. to have a voice in the publishing industry because we are adjacent to the U.S. We whether we like it or not, and I mean our experience can be similar, but can be a lot different. And I think it's a voice that needs to be heard because sometimes even Hispanic people who are born and raised in the U.S. when they read books by people who are born and raised in the U.S. don't feel like that scene because maybe their household was more closer to their Hispanic side than kind of like the Americanized version that each family has to kind of like come up to survive in the US. So I feel like more Hispanic voices that are not necessarily born and raised in the US should be in books in the US. It's just kind of like I'm gonna try harder because I'm gonna if I had to like put a foot and wait for a spare like a space to go to like cram a chair, I will do it. Like
my submissions for my publishing company just filled up so fast, and I was like, I can only publish 2 books a year financially. I was like, oh no. Because I was like so excited. I was like, oh my God, all these people on Authortube, like, great people, diverse voices. And like, also to make clear, when like I say diverse, I don't just mean like race. And like looking at me like you don't know, but I like every single type of diversity that exists. I am not the cishet white Christian person. Like everything else is not that. And so to me, diversity should, like, there are a lot of publishing imprints that are like, oh, we're diverse. And then you look at their line and it's only on one form of diversity. And like, that's great, but that doesn't.
It's not intersectional. Yeah.
Yeah. That doesn't help everyone who's like already not being heard. Like, a lot of publishing companies are like, oh, race or LGBTQIA. And those are both great because those people need those voices. But like, there aren't really any for like neurodivergent or disability or, and
or you say you have all those things, but all those things are really one, because you have one marginalized person of color who's also in 4 other groups, and you call.
There are executives of big
is all of your diversity. Everything else is cishet white.
There are executives in Big 5 publishers who in 2022 we're still saying, oh, we already have our Black author. Yeah. So like that says a lot about the state of traditional publishing, the big industry, but I'm trying to do better with my publishing.
Yeah. But we have the other thing is like, if they don't if the amount of books that are being pitched to agents and eventually pitched to editors, if those books are not, if the diversity in those do not increase, then the chances of them seeing that this has, like people want these books, like they are being written because people do want to read them. They're not going to buy them. And this is why I don't want people who still were looking at TrialPub being discouraged by the trial, because then the less diverse stories that are pitched to TrialPub, then the less they're going to publish.
And then they'll say that that's their excuse. They're like, they're not coming. They're not here.
That's what they're saying. And it's like, no, they're always in your slush inbox, and you're just not picking them because you know that you can't sell them to an editor because the editor can't get their higher up to sign off on a diverse story. Like, that's the problem.
Yes. And that is one of the things I do want to talk more about, these types of things that can actually, I love the fun topics, don't get me wrong. I definitely want to keep up with the fun, hot topics.
Smash or pass.
I love a good smash or pass. But I do also want to talk about the things that are actually going to help us, help everybody move forward within their career. So more topics like that for sure. So when those come along, we will not be ignoring them. And of course, you guys in the chat, if you hear something or see something, shoot us, any one of us, shoot us a message and we'll get it to Esther. So Esther, so she
can feel the background.
Esther, I can design you a pretty type form where it's like, do you have author tea that you'd like covered in the next Authortubers React? Esther will find the receipts.
if I count like books I better read and all of the Twitter threads that I read, I will have made my reading challenge.
Oh wow!
And pass it. I mean,
believe it.
Maybe that's the reason I still have so many unread books. It's just
Yes.
the deep dives that I go into.
I'm so grateful you do, though.
Seriously.
Yeah.
You cover
Yes,
Twitter,
this-
so I don't have to, and JC covers YouTube, so I don't have to. Like, God bless you.
And then Zara lets me go hands-free on this stream. It's like, this is great. I'm just like,
Man.
Yeah,
It just
love
helps.
everything.
yeah, that was a great one. Yes. AI is actually a hot topic I want to talk about next month. AI is the AI, and I also want to talk about the evolution of Authortubes, so you guys can kind of like get a little heads up on what those
Okay.
topics are.
Maybe
So it's
like-
AI in art and in writing, so you guys
Yeah.
can look into it and see what's been interesting things have been going on with.
There was
with
a
AI.
I can't my uncle told me about it and he read it in like a physical newspaper so I can't and he couldn't find which one of it was. But if he can find it or if I Google it and find it, I will send it to you. But it was about how a college student turned in an AI written essay and the teacher couldn't tell it was written by AI.
Yes, I saw this in the news. Yes. So we're
I
definitely
mean,
going to be talking about what AI is doing.
Not related to that, but I mean, I can find those two examples of a cover made for a pretty big name on a pretty big publishing company, which was made through AI, and
I heard about that.
And
Yes.
a picture book made on a weekend through AI.
Wow.
And like how they were like promoting is like if you wanted to be an author, this AI is, and I was like, no, this is not.
Artists too. A lot of artists are freaking
I'm
out.
seeing a lot of YouTube videos of them venting and
So,
definitely talking about it.
Find those Twitter
Brownlee. Marcus Brownlee, who the tech reviewer on YouTube, he did a really good video about AI.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you don't know, look into it. We are definitely going to be talking about it on our next Authortubers React. Tentatively, it's going to be the last Saturday of the month. So I just got to get with my crew and make sure that everybody's good. But so everybody has the heads up on that, because I do have scripting the book on the 22nd, and I try not to do these big things on the same weekend. So with that, guys, I think it's a wrap for 2022.
What?
How many
Another-
topics were great. And you guys in the chat, mods, and just people who
We love
come
you.
just to hang out with us, y'all are awesome. I love
We
hanging out with you guys. I literally look forward to it. I love seeing everybody's opinion, and it's always a good time. This is one of the things I just look forward to. This is like our time to just sit back and talk about the stuff.
Yeah.
Talk about all the things.
Learn a few things.
Yes.
Yes.
So I'm going to let everybody give us some quick outros and let us know what you guys have immediately coming up in the new year next week. Starting with Desiree, we'll swing it back around.
Oh boy. Hi, friends. So again, I'm Desiree. You can find me on YouTube under Coffee Reading Writing. I'm going to be posting a lot about the editing process and the querying process, because that is pretty much the journey I'm going to be taking for 2023. So definitely stay tuned. There will be many videos on that. And that is me.
And I am Esther Mirandor. Upcoming is my live. I have a live on January 4 at 4 p.m. Eastern, where I'm going to review 2022 goals live. We're going to watch that video together. And I'm going to share my word of the year and my goals for 2023. And probably a couple of days later, then the quarter one goals video will come out. And that's it. Just the usual, Marina. That's gonna keep happening.
Exciting.
I love that.
My name is Charliee. I have a YouTube channel under the name Charliee Writer with 2 E's and an I. but not in that order. And I I make YouTube videos, and I post occasionally about writing and journaling. And yes, that is me.
All right. Hi, I am Barrett Laurie, and my channel, like Charlie's, is Barrett Laurie. And on my channel, I have a video coming up on New Year's Eve that is all about my writing retreat finally and my pivot away from Authortube in 2023. So look for that New Year's Eve. And I am going to still host CGL, which is a big writing contest happening right now, $575 in prizes. So check that out. If you are a short story / fiction writer, I would love to see your work. And I'm still going to be around Authortube here and on the Writer's Room and CGL. So you'll still see me around. But yes, you'll see what is up next for me New Year's Eve. How's that for a book?
I just want illustrations.
Yeah.
And a nice audio to go with it, like.
Monday at 5 p.m.
Oh, and Monday. Oh my God.
Is also going to be interviewing my first author through my publishing company. So my publishing company is Inimitable Books, dedicated to uplifting marginalized voices without pigeonholing authors into writing about their trauma. And the first book is coming out. Ooh, we lost someone.
Oh, we lost Esther.
We lost Esther.
Where the first book is coming out in June. And Barrett, I roped him in doing an interview. So that's going to be fun.
I'm doing that. Sorry, I forgot because it's not on my channel. So
yeah, no. Don't worry.
I've just done the outline. So I'm like, I forgot that was happening because I'm not doing anything for it. I'm like Nia, I'll be no hands.
Yeah, I'll be working behind the scenes.
So yeah, Monday, I'll be posting that on my Instagram stories, which I didn't even promote this on my Instagram stories.
Yeah, I forgot to post this on my Instagram stories. I'm sorry, Nia. I had a day.
Yeah.
I was sick earlier.
I didn't either. So I
Charliee?
It has been a day.
Don't look at me. I posted Merry Christmas late too. So
2022, friends. 2022.
Look, we're all just happy to be sliding into 2023. But the rest of who I am is I'm also one half of the Writers Podcast with Kelly Wright, where we talk about all things writing related from shiny new idea through publishing and marketing. And I am the self-published author of 7 books, a young adult paranormal romance trilogy. I'm dropping my books.
You need like one of those rope bags so that we can still see all the books, but you just have to like hold it up.
Yeah.
Just dangle it.
A new adult sci-fi romance trilogy. And then lastly, but not least, my young adult dystopian romance. It's a standalone. I'm very excited about it because I actually came up with this idea when I was still in high school. So it came out this year. And yeah, that's me.
That cover is gorgeous.
I do like that cover a lot.
Seriously.
I think that's one of my favorite covers that you have, Zara.
Thank you.
Yep, good job. All right, guys. And you're here on my channel. I will be streaming on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. in the new year for Night Write. I will do a couple of lunchtime writing sprints streams during the new year. I might be doing January, not 50,000.
You
30K.
Riley. Nice. We get a Riley.
And, if you want to join us on Scripting the Book, on the 22nd, I believe, we're doing Fire and Blood and House of the Dragon. So if you were a fan of the Game of Thrones prequel, come hang out with us. It's going to be a good time.
Is Fire and Blood the book that House of the Dragon is based on?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
So you can come join us for that. And yeah, I'm going to try and keep posting 1 or 2 regular videos a month. Loki shorts will be on Saturday. The whole thing, you guys know the deal.
Love it.
You know where to find me. I'm
I
here.
live for the Loki shorts.
I love the Loki
Love
shorts.
them.
They're so fun.
Love them.
All right, guys. Let us say goodnight. No Loki tonight. So
Look at Riley.
the lovely Riley has blessed us with a pet movement.
Because I was eating chicken for dinner. The only reason she's been next to me so often.
So you have chicken.
She's here for the chicken.
Yeah, she went into the kitchen. She's like, Mom's gone crazy and says she doesn't have chicken. She totally has chicken. She lost it.
Look
Here
how
for the-
snuggly she is. Oh.
Oh, my Morgan.
She is so cute. All right, guys, let us go ahead and do the quick wave. Goodbye. Happy New Year. We'll see you guys.
Is this
Happy New
that for
Year.
season? Is this season 2?
Yes.
I don't know.
Season-
I guess we do call this season 2.
Oh, I got
Season
fired
2.
in season 2. I got fired in season 2.
Very good.
There's the
Bye.
drama.
The name of your video.
Bye,
No, you
everybody.
in season 3.